All right, today we're diving into a blueprint that could totally change the game for how countries manage their agricultural data. We're talking about a plan to go from total digital chaos to a smart, coordinated system. Let's get into it.
So, to really get why this is so important, let's start with a number, and it is a huge number. $272 billion. That's how much Commonwealth countries spent on food imports in 2023 alone. And you know that number's just going to keep climbing.
And that kind of leads to this big nagging question, right? We have more data than ever before in human history. Weather data, soil data, market data, everything. So why is something as basic as food security getting harder to solve, not easier? It's a real paradox, and it's right at the heart of what we're talking about today.
So what's the deal here? Well, the problem isn't that we don't have enough data. Oh no, we're practically swimming in it. The real issue is that we haven't built the plumbing, the infrastructure, to make any of that data actually useful.
I mean, just think about it. You've got government departments, you've got nonprofits, researchers, private companies, and they're all collecting their own data, a lot of times on the exact same things. But it's all locked up in their own little digital silos that can't or won't talk to each other. It's just a mess. It's inefficient, it's confusing, and it creates this imbalance where only a few people with access get the real benefit.
So how in the world do you fix a problem that big? Well, you need a plan, a blueprint, a coordinated national strategy to build one shared infrastructure for all this data. And that, my friends, is where something called the National Agricultural Data Infrastructure, or NAgDI, comes into the picture.
Now, this isn't just some vague concept. It's all laid out right here in this incredibly detailed policy guide from the Commonwealth Secretariat. This thing is the real deal. It's basically a practical how-to manual for any country that wants to build its own data ecosystem right from the ground up.
So what is NAgDI really? Okay, the most important thing to get is that this is not just another government database. Think of it more like a public utility, like the highway system or the power grid. It's got the technology, the hard infrastructure, but just as critical, it includes all the rules, the policies, the governance, all the soft infrastructure that makes the whole thing work for everybody. And here is the absolute best way to understand this whole concept. Think about building an actual highway. You don't just dump some asphalt on the ground and call it a day, right? You need a whole system. And this brilliant analogy is exactly how NAgDI is designed.
The guide breaks it down into 4 common-sense steps. First, you build the actual roads. Then, you put up signs and paint lines so people know the rules. After that, you need someone to enforce those rules. And finally, you've got to have a business model to pay for it and make it sustainable. Let's look at what each of these means for data.
Step 1. The roads and bridges. In the data world, this is the technology layer. These are the secure, compatible systems that let all the different data, which are like the cars and trucks, move around freely and connect with each other.
But you know, roads without any rules are just pure chaos. So step 2 brings in the signs and markings. For data, these are the policies and principles. They're like the speed limits and stop signs that define who gets to use the data, how it's kept private, and make sure the whole system is safe and trustworthy.
And who makes sure everybody's actually following the rules? Well, that's step 3, law enforcement. In the data world, this is all about independent governance. It's like having a neutral highway patrol that makes sure the system is fair for everyone. Super important that it's independent, because that's what builds trust.
And finally, let's be real, none of this stuff gets built for free. Step 4 is the business model. This is how you pay for it all. It's the tolls and the financing that gets the highway built and keeps it maintained. And it's what allows all sorts of new businesses and services to pop up along the way.
And when you put all of those pieces together, this is what you get, a complete, functioning data superhighway. You can see how all the parts, the tech, the policies, the governance, the business model, they all have to work in harmony. It's not just a project, it's a true national asset.
Okay, so the blueprint is beautiful. It looks great on paper, but what happens when you try to actually build this thing in the real world? Yeah, that's where things get, well, a little messy.
Let's take Tanzania as an example. According to Omar Bakari, who co-founded the Tanzania Data Lab, they've had some real wins. Different government ministries are actually sharing data now, which makes things like getting export permits way faster. But the big hurdle they're still facing, getting the government and the private sector to share data and trust each other.
And this quote from Ronald Kundwani Udete in Malawi just nails the reality of it. He said sometimes they find themselves acting as a human application programming interface. How great is that? It means before all the tech is perfectly connected, the most important links are the people, manually connecting farmers to the right information. It's such a great reminder that this is all about people and partnerships, not just software.
So with all these real-world challenges, you have to ask, why would a country go through all this trouble? The answer is, it's about so much more than just better farming. It's really about a nation securing its place in the digital future.
The benefits at the macro level are just huge. When you have a trusted national data system, investors get data they can actually rely on, which brings in money. Policymakers can make way smarter decisions about trade. The country gets one single source of truth about how it's doing. And maybe most importantly, it gets the country ready for the next massive wave of technology, artificial intelligence, which absolutely needs clean, organized data to work.
And this isn't some 50-year fantasy. The policy guide lays out a really practical 5-year roadmap to get it done. You start by getting everyone on board, then you plan, you design, you launch, and finally you scale it up. It takes this massive, intimidating idea and makes it feel totally achievable.
Which brings us to the final, and maybe the most crucial point in all of this. The guide ends with a really powerful warning. Doing nothing is not a neutral choice. In today's economy, any country that doesn't build and control its own digital infrastructure is basically handing over control of its future. So at the end of the day, this isn't just about data. It's about sovereignty.